Hey guys, and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how I take these basic brows and turn them into these luscious IG brows. Before we hop into these very popular brows, I'm going to start with the number 13 in Juvia's Place's concealer. And I'm going to start to conceal these spots that I have on my face. So that way if I decide to do a full face beat, or if I just decide to focus on my brows, my face looks nice and finished. What you'll need to achieve these brows is the Anastasia number 12 brush that has the spoolie and the angle on one side. You're also going to need the medium brown color in the Anastasia Dip Pomade. First, you want to start off by brushing your brows to make sure that your hair is all in the same direction. And then taking your angled brush with a good amount of product on the tip, you're going to start to sculpt out the shape of the brow that you want right underneath. Once you have underneath your brow nice and established, you're going to take your spoolie and brush that hair up, and also allowing that product to become diffused with your natural brow. Once the bottom of your brow is looking good, you're going to go ahead and move up to the top of your brow. This is going to be where you're able to dictate how bold you want your brows to be, whether you want them to be thicker, if you want them to be more on the natural side, but you can make this as large as you want. But depending on your natural brow, just be very careful because you will be able to see the product that is in the space that you don't have hair. While I began to fill in my brows, I make sure that I brush out at the same time so that way I'm not piling product on top of one another. And you'll see shortly when I go to the front of the brow, I'm using what's left over on my brush to start to blend out the front of the brow so that it's not as heavy. One of the things that I love the most about the Anastasia brush is that the spoolie is super dense, so it does allow you to brush out and fan out your natural hair, so that way you get more of a natural look, but you can still be bold. If you're finding it difficult to sculpt out your brows the way that you want, more than likely your brows are not as manicured as you need them to be. When there's too much hair around the brow, it makes it harder for you to sculpt out the perfect brow that you're looking for. So nothing too different on the opposite side. You're going to duplicate what you did on the other, making sure that you are being mindful of your natural shape with each brow. Remember, your brows should be related, but they shouldn't be twins. Before we move on to concealing these brows, it's good to make sure that they are nice and even on the end, so one's not longer than the other, but also making sure that your blend in the front is reasonable, so when you do go back to conceal, it's not a lot of work that you have to do. Using the same concealer from earlier, Juvia's Place 13, and also my Morphe 167 brush to clean up these brows. If you notice, I do have a little bit of product outside of my natural brow, but this concealer is going to clean that right up. I like to use my hand to dispense the product, so that way I'm not having to create a mess while I'm working. When I start to conceal my brows, aka clean them up, I like to use a tapping motion to get started. Once I have the product where I want it to be, I start to glide the product underneath the entire brow, then taking it down to my lid so I can conceal my entire lid as well. This is the first time that I'm using the Juvia's Place concealer for my brows and just on my face period, and I am completely obsessed. I do like that it's thick enough to be able to conceal everything that I needed to, but it's very smooth when you're putting it on the skin. I chose to use a color that's closer to my skin tone, so that way you can see that my brows are pronounced and clean, but not glowing. Now that we've completed underneath the brows, we're going to go ahead and move to the top of the brows and start to conceal there as well. This is a great time to be able to clean up that shape, and if you've overlined or overfilled, you can definitely make sure that you go back and clean up this at this moment. Also, if you want to make your ends of your brows look a little bit more sharp, you can definitely do it in this step. If you're working with a pretty good concealer, it's very important to know how much you need to be able to not push it into your already sculpted brow. So apply a little bit of product onto your brush and add on if you need to. In this technique, less sometimes is more. Before I blend the inner parts of my brows, I do have to go back on one of my sides to just make sure that one end of the brow is not longer than the other. So that's what you'll see me doing now. Using my Real Techniques eyeshadow brush, I will be using this to blend out the concealer that I've placed on my lid right above to blend into my forehead, and I will also be using the leftover product on this brush to finish blending the inside of my brows. When using this brush, you do want to make sure that you're tapping very gently. You don't want to put too much product on the brows. You want to create a very feathered look. So you do not need extra product on your brush when you're going back in for this. move on to setting the brows, definitely take your concealer brush and go back and do any fine tuning that you need in the front of the brows or clean up anything that you possibly moved out of place while you were blending. Please note that this next step is optional, so taking my Banana Deep Powder by Makeup Revolution in a metal palette that I have, I'm going to take a dry sponge and just pat a thin layer of powder on my eyebrows to set it. Typically, you can take a spoolie to brush this out or just spray regular setting spray on your brows. And this is going to set your brows so that way they look a little bit more softer. You can also use this powder to make it stay in place, but if you like the look of the brows beforehand, then just use a regular setting spray. And voila, here you have it, nice bold brows.